Coming up today, it's one of the highest level meetings on the matter yet. The foreign ministers of South Korea and Japan are set for talks in Seoul, focused on resolving the issue of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. Korea's rival parties will attempt to pass some pending economy-related bills at the National Assembly this afternoon, but other more contentious bills remain in limbo, with the end of the year approaching. Plus, the Iraqi army scores its first major victory in a year and a half, liberating the central city of Ramadi from Islamic State militants. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 28th of December. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, the foreign ministers of South Korea and Japan are set to meet to discuss the unresolved issue of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women in a little under 2 hours from now. For more, let's connect to our Gwon-soa, who is joining us at Seoul's Foreign Ministry in Seoul. So, Soa, please give us an overview of what we can expect at today's meeting.
Hi, Mark. Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and his counterpart Fumio Kishida are set to meet at 2 p.m. Korea time here at the ministry in Seoul. And a little more than an hour after that, there is going to be a joint press briefing. So that's when we're expected to be informed about whether there has been a breakthrough on the issue or not. Now, it's likely to depend on whether the two can find a way to narrow their differences on the biggest points of contention. The major one being Japan's legal responsibility for its forcing around 200,000 women, mainly from Korea, into sexual slavery. Tokyo maintains the issue was settled in a 1965 treaty that normalized bilateral ties. Korea refutes that claim. Seoul insists that a formal apology and compensation be issued to former sex slave victims from the Japanese government. Japanese media have been reporting that Minister Kishida will present a proposal from Prime Minister Abe for the creation of a fund worth 100 million yen or $830,000 for the so-called comfort women. But from the elderly victims' point of view, the nature of the compensation rather than the amount is more important, meaning the apology government, not humanitarian level, as Japan has so far been offering.
And today's talks, it's December 28th now. They've been arranged so close to the end of the year. How likely is it that the two sides can finally, hopefully, reach an agreement on this matter?
Well, Mark, expectations are higher than ever before as the timing of the meeting is seen as very important, also mentioned by Minister Yoon yesterday. Now, expectations are especially high because the meeting is following President Park Geunhye and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe agreeing to speed up talks at a summit in November. And Abe reportedly asked Kishida to do his utmost at today's meeting. Now, Seoul and Tokyo have already held 12 rounds of working-level talks, with the last one taking place just yesterday, which indicates some progress. But there have been some doubts over Japan's sincerity after Japanese media falsely reported that Korea is considering removing a symbolic comfort woman statue from the Japanese embassy in Seoul. So we will have to wait and see whether today's talks will come to a conclusion or if they will have to be continued into next year. I'll be having more updates here as the day progresses. This has been Gwon-soa reporting live at Seoul's Foreign Affairs Ministry. Back to you, Mark.
Well, thank you very much to Soa for that report, and hopefully we'll be getting some updates from her during our next newscast at 6 p.m. Korea time. Now, in other news, President Park Geunhye has convened this year's final meeting of her chief secretaries, where she laid out her administration's objectives for 2016. The President repeated her call to Parliament to promptly pass key labour reform bills and to help the people instead of working for their own personal or party interests. She then called for concrete measures to boost domestic demand in the first quarter. to give Korea the best chance to post growth in the 3% range next year. As 2016 marks the beginning of the 3-year Visit Korea period, President Park also stressed the need to foster the tourism industry as a new growth engine. She said it can be done by developing new contents and creating quality jobs for young people. Staying with domestic politics, and the leaders of Korea's rival parties were locked in talks all weekend, trying to reach a compromise on several important issues. While a number of key issues do unfortunately remain unresolved, the parties have agreed to pass some non-contentious bills this afternoon. Now, a slew of economy-related bills pushed by the government are currently just stuck in limbo at the National Assembly. These include bills on the labour market, the service sector, and a tax credit for companies that restructure their businesses. Concerning a bill related to redrawing Korea's electoral map, which hasn't been agreed upon yet, Assembly Speaker Jung Hwa said he will use his authority for a direct referral of the bill if the matter becomes regarded as a state of legislative emergency. Now, it's unclear whether lawmakers will be able to table the remaining bills for a vote, with only a few days remaining before the end of the year. Now, in economy-related news, Korea's household and corporate debt to GDP ratio hit a record high in the third quarter, and this is fueling concerns that snowballing debt poses a serious risk to the Korean economy. Park Geunhye has the details.
The Bank of Korea says the amount of household and corporate debt in Korea was almost 2 times higher than the country's GDP in the third quarter this year. The debt-to-GDP ratio stood at 182.6%, marking a new high. The figure edged down in the first quarter but breached the 180% mark for the first time in the following 3 months. Household and corporate debt includes loans and sales on credit. The record amount in the July to September period came on the back of surging household debt caused by eased real estate regulations and a record low key interest rate. Riding on the government's measures to boost home transactions, the central bank cut the key rate 4 times in less than a year period starting August last year. Given that, analysts warn the debt burden is becoming a potential risk for the economy.
If house prices drop suddenly, the debt problem will emerge as a serious issue that could worsen Korea's financial health and trigger a full-blown crisis.
Third quarter household debt grew at its fastest pace since 2002 when the data were first compiled. The amount of debt stood at over $1 trillion as of the end of September, up roughly $30 billion from the end of previous quarter. Experts add the snowballing household debt could also dent consumption in the longer term as people will save money to pay back their loans. Gyeonggi, Arirang News.
Now, we keep hearing about record low oil prices, but have you ever wondered where the cheapest gasoline in the world is? Well, it turns out Venezuela tops the list and does so by quite a margin as well. According to globalpetrolprices.com, the price of gasoline in Venezuela is a mere 2 cents a litre. This means drivers in the South American country can fill up a compact car for around $1. Now, the average global price of gasoline is slightly under $1 a litre. Korea's gas price is the 50th most expensive, standing above the global average at $1.21 a litre. Gasoline is most expensive in Hong Kong at $1.84 per litre, and gas prices in European nations hovered around $1.50. Now, each nation's gas price includes fuel taxes and subsidies. Korea is set to sign a multi-billion-dollar contract on its homegrown fighter jet development project, codenamed KFX. It's Korea's largest weapons development project in history, and it aims to produce scores of fighter jets within the next 15 years or so. However, stumbling blocks remain, as our Connie Kim reports.
Korea will push ahead to develop its first indigenous fighter jet as the Defense Acquisition Program Administration and the nation's only aircraft maker, Korea Aerospace Industries, will sign a formal contract on Monday. Under the pact, Korea hopes to produce 120 homegrown mid-tier fighter jets by 2032 to replace its aging fleet of F-4s and F-5s. $7.5 billion will go into developing the fighter, with an additional $8.2 billion going into producing the 120 fighter jets. The $15 billion fighter jet program is Korea's largest weapons development project. Indonesia will also invest and cover 20% of the total cost, based on a tentative deal signed with Korea Aerospace Industries. Jakarta will participate in the design process and production of components, and in turn receive one prototype plane and technological data from Korea. Production of 6 test planes is expected to be completed by June 2026 under the agreement of Korea's State Arms Procurement Agency and the nation's sole aircraft maker. In January, a task force team will be launched consisting of 70 to 80 officials and experts. Development of Korea's first indigenous fighter jet will have to overcome several hurdles yet, as it needs to develop 4 core technologies, including the active electronically scanned radar. Korea and Lockheed Martin agreed on the transfer of 25 combat technologies, but the U.S. barred the American manufacturer from transferring 4 core technologies to Korea in April, citing security reasons. Earlier this month, the U.S. government approved the transfer of the remaining 21 technologies. Concerns remain, however, as Korea may not receive a number of specific sub-technologies needed for the project. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, 2 German researchers have delved into the code of North Korea's computer operating system called redstar. Speaking to Reuters on Sunday prior to revealing their findings at the Chaos Communication Congress in Hamburg, the researchers said that although the system is based on a version of Linux, it has its own firewall, antivirus and encryption systems allowing for strict control. And if tampered with, the computer displays an error message or reboots itself. redstar also secretly tags files it comes into contact with to track location of use. This is thought to be in order for the regime to crack down on file sharing of illegal media, such as foreign films, music, or other forms of media. The researchers describe the system as rudimentary, with a basic set of applications that includes a Korean word processor, a calendar, and an app for composing and transcribing music. Now, it was a hard-fought battle, but Iraqi forces have finally retaken control of Ramadi, a city that had been a stronghold of Islamic State militants since May. It marks a significant victory, as it's the first major city recaptured by the army itself without the help of militias. Our Son Jung-in has the details.
It took 7 months for Iraqi armed forces to regain control of the central city of Ramadi. A spokesman for the government forces said Sunday that the city's central administration complex was now under their control, declaring a victory over the militants in Anbar's provincial capital. The Iraqi government plans to hold an official flag-raising ceremony at the recaptured compound, hoping to completely retake the city from isolated pockets of resistance in the coming days. The assault was led by members of Iraq's counter-terrorism unit. After months of preparation, the forces launched an operation last Tuesday, but the advance was hampered by suicide bombers, snipers, and booby traps in the area until they made a final push to seize the complex on Sunday. According to Iraqi intelligence, around 250 to 300 ISIS militants had been holding the city's central districts. Officials did not give an official death toll for the government forces or civilians for the battle. The victory allows armed forces to focus their sights on capturing Iraq's northern city of Mosul, which is by far the largest population center controlled by ISIS. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, we're 3 days away from the end of the year, and it's a tradition in Korea for people to bid farewell to the old year and welcome in the new by watching the sunset and sunrise. And some spots are well known for their amazing vantage points, but others not so much. So, if you're in Korea and want to do something special for the new year, our Lee Ji-won walks us through some of the top spots.
The sun reveals itself through a tranquil sea of clouds, and with the earthy tones of the mountains in the background, the scenery takes your breath away. Nogudan Peak on Jirisan Mountain is a perfect place to enjoy the sunset and sunrise over the New Year period. Thanks to its gentle slopes, the peak is popular with families with young children. Nogudan Peak is just one of 10 places the Korean National Park Service has selected as great areas to observe the sun going down and coming up. Newly included to the list are Sobeksan Mountain's 제-Yeonhwabong Peak, from where the Baekdudaegan mountain range can be seen. There's also the Bukhansan Observatory, from where visitors can enjoy an amazing view of Seoul. Watching the sunrise from the seashore is another New Year's tradition in Korea. People can enjoy the first sunrise of 2016 from the southern sea from Choyang-do Island in Gyeongsangnam-do Province. The Korean National Park Service says another good place to welcome in the first sunrise of 2016 is Gochi Beach on the Taean Peninsula.
The sunrise attractions chosen this year are not famous peaks, but rather flat and low areas that are easily accessible.
Officials added that people venturing out to areas to watch sunsets and sunrises should wear warm clothes, as they'll be out in the elements for long periods of time. Ijiwon, Arirang News.
Now, if you're watching us in Korea, you'll know just how cold it is today. In fact, it's the coldest day of the winter so far. Now, the morning low in Seoul actually dipped all the way down to -9 degrees Celsius on this Monday, while most other regions had sub-zero temperatures readings, except for Korea's Jeju Island. That was the only place with temperatures in the positive range. Now, cold wave advisories are in place across most cities in Gyeonggi and Gangwon-do provinces. Make sure you stay as bundled up as possible, as the mercury will remain below zero in most parts of the country throughout the day today. Now, the cold snap is forecast to continue until tomorrow before temperatures return to seasonal norms on Tuesday afternoon. And with that weather update, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Stay warm if you're watching us in Korea, and thank you as always for tuning in. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Until then, goodbye.